and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Appreciate it. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we start, I have one issue, and it's with agenda item number 15, which is a approval of a marijuana HCA. And we're going to put that off till our next meeting because Armin Dibakarian is not here, and it's an issue of importance that I think all five of us should vote on. So we're going to push that on to our September 17th meeting. So item number 15 will not be part of the agenda tonight. Our next item is public comments. So if anybody in the room has any public comments on anything on the agenda, this is the time to speak up, because with all we have on the agenda tonight, it's unlikely there'll be public comments during any of the other items. If anybody has any public comments, this would be the time.
I do.
If you're going to make public comments, just let us know so that the tape, name and address. So.
Josh Morse, 53 Powder Mill Road, Maynard, Massachusetts. I'm going to read quickly. I offer the following opportunities for budget savings and increased revenue here in Maynard. I will send this as well, but I'd like to read it into the record if possible. I'll read quickly. I recommend for the budget that we zero-base the budget. I recommend that we do to take a look at attrition on a case-by-case basis of positions throughout the town and public schools, and evaluation justification to fill for all future positions. Obviously, some are essential, and maybe they're all essential, but I think an evaluation makes sense. Establish a union negotiation team that consists of personnel from MPS and Town Hall for all contracts, and let the union see exactly what financial challenges we're faced with, and let them be part of the solution. Can we evaluate the current Maynard Public Schools out-of-district placements and perform cost-benefit analysis of making strategic investments in Maynard Public School staff which can reduce current and long-term costs? I'd like to see us establish a charter school task force to develop strategies to keep Maynard students in Maynard Public Schools. I'd like to evaluate all Maynard Public School and town programs that are offered, which are beyond basic core services. In my opinion, it's better to focus on providing high-quality basic services than spreading us too thin with unique services that don't serve the entire community. I recommend that we evaluate MPS staff levels in each cost center over the past 5 years and layer on historical and projected student enrollment levels to determine if we have the appropriate balance of administrative support, managerial, and educational staff levels. I recommend that we do a staffing analysis and FTE justification for each department and evaluate cost-benefit analysis of buyout programs. For healthcare and dental reform, I recommend we reduce or eliminate copays for minute/retail clinics to incentivize those less expensive healthcare options over emergency room and other visits when appropriate. Employee wellness programs, plan restructure, copay comp analysis, push the Canadian drug mail order program, which can save both employees and the town a significant amount of money. How do we procure our plans? Can we partner and leverage through co-ops? Many of these changes will save everyone money. Retirement contribution comp analysis and adjust as appropriate based on other communities. Cost-benefit analysis of current outstanding practices or outsourcing practices to determine what should be completed by town and MPS staff. Some things may make more sense to bring back in. Some things may make sense to continue to outsource. Cost-benefit analysis of services currently provided by the town and MPS, which make more sense to outsource. Cost-benefit analysis of legal counsel. How do we pick our battles when it comes to legal counsel versus settling or resolving before lawyers are brought in? Can we standardize all consumable items like paper goods, supplies, trash, hand soap, and buy them in bulk through a co-op or off-state contracts? Can we buy gasoline, road salt, fleet through co-ops, through MassDOT, through state contracts? If we already are, how often do we reevaluate those buying practices? Can we buy natural gas and electricity through a reverse auction or the state co-op program as opposed to buying on the open market? This most recently generates approximately 25 to 30% savings in the actual rates. How do we procure our trash contract? How long is the contract? What can we do to make this contract more appealing and less expensive? How can we increase competition in the bid process? How do we procure bus contracts? I won't read all of that. How do we procure all of our DPW contracts? I have a number of suggestions on that front. Have we converted all of our streetlights to LEDs? Do we have control systems in place? How do we operate those? How do we negotiate those rates with the utility company? Our snow removal contracts, are we paying by inch or by hour? How do we supervise those contracts? Do we reevaluate to make sure that we're getting the best deal? Who's responsible for taking advantage of state and federal grant programs? I also have a list that I can provide on that. Strategic investments in building energy retrofits to help reduce utility costs. Summer programs in our schools should be clustered in buildings which operate more efficiently to reduce our utility costs. Revenue opportunities. I mentioned this past spring, solar carports and solar rooftop can generate approximately $200,000 a year annually. In addition to this, this could be done as a community solar share program in which you could offer utility rebate programs to people who are income eligible. So not just age-based, but income eligible. That'll be important in 1 second. I also recommend that we take a hard look at, and I know we have, but I continue to look hard at, zoning redesign, development incentivization, expansion of buy right and marketing in Maynard. There are plenty of ways to attract smart growth here in Maynard. However, they're all bold and require departure from the norm and an evolution of thought. I think we need to reevaluate our trash sticker program. What are our costs based on the increased tipping fees? We all know what's going on in China. Should we be at least covering our costs? This is also a way in which we can combat climate change and do the responsible thing as a community. Permit fees. When was the last time we evaluated comps of other communities to take a look to make sure that all of our fee structures are on par? Evaluation of comps of all rental rates for town and Maynard Public School assets. Do we have a one-stop shopping where we have all these assets listed where people can rent and easily find those? We should continue to pursue the acquisition of all federal land within Maynard. I understand that efforts were made many years ago on that front, and I'm not suggesting that we deforest areas, but there are parcels of federal land that are difficult to get but could increase our tax base. Have we evaluated how our assessing department evaluates the valuation of properties here in Maynard? Do the assessed values need market correction? Have the valuations gone up at the same rate as the cost of real estate? Have we done a comp analysis of our entire fee structure? Clerk, weights and measures, treasurer, fingerprinting, licensing and permits, police, fire, library, parking, conservation, building permits, street openings, licensing board, board of health, planning board, and animal control. And lastly, the community solar share program that I mentioned before, coupled with the income eligibility adjustments made under Mass General Law 59, Section 5, Clause 41A, which provide tax relief for seniors in the form of property tax deferrals, could help completely offset tax increases that result in any future overrides necessary for the town. Thank you.
Anybody else? Last chance. Okay, next up is executive minutes. The one set to approve. I make a motion that we approve but not release executive session minutes from August 27th, 2019, not to be released until matters discussed are resolved. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any conversation? Well, there can't be. There'll be no conversation about those. So, all those in favor? Almost caught me.
Made yourself laugh.
Almost caught myself. All right. Correspondences this week. We have A through J, and I make a motion that we accept and approve the correspondence items A through J as shown. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions about any of the correspondence items this week in the packet?
I think so.
Okay. All right, no questions or concerns? All those in favor? Thank you. Next up is the consent agenda items, A through E. And I make a motion that we accept and approve the list of 5 consent agenda items, A through E, as shown. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on those? Go ahead, Justine.
This is stupid. So we don't have an actual permit or anything yet for the carnival or whatnot?
We have police and fire both here.
They're all here, but no, I was
If
just,
either one would like to speak on that?
We have not worked out the terms yet, we've worked out the dates.
okay, so And it's going to be in Columbus Day weekend, so
Yes.
Thursday, Friday, Sunday,
And
Monday.
which-
Okay.
Do you know, Mike, do you know which date they're going to anticipate the fireworks portion of the,
There is no fireworks as of now,
so cross that off?
and no Oktoberfest as of now. Battle Road backed out.
Okay. Okay.
All right,
So we'll have a new location
Not necessarily, we're trying to see what we can do to
with the
generate.
owners of the mill in Maine.
When we get information, we'll do.
Okay. I was just curious because we didn't have that.
okay.
And I've got one quick question. On the consent, I have no opposition at all to Lindy Gear being named to the Community Preservation Committee, but is it now going to be status quo or, I guess, a regular operation to put appointments to committees onto the consent agenda?
No, it won't be. That might have been an overlook. No, it won't be.
Shouldn't be, but
All I have.
Typically, well, the same question could be asked about the one-day license for Fine Arts
Oh,
Theater.
No, we approved them. Well, my understanding was it was a repeat because we.
if it's a
Okay,
repeat
okay.
thing,
Right,
where we had agreed.
right.
Well, okay,
It's a different event, but it's the same people that we approved last time, so I can see that.
all right. Does anybody have any questions, any more questions about those events? This year, the parade and the WAVM are on separate weeks?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
I appreciate that.
thanks. All right, all those in favor of the 5 items? Okay. Mr. Justin DeMarco. You're up, sir.
Come on down.
Come on up. Good evening. All right. So, there's a motion that we move to approve the Director of Public Works contract effective September 30th, 2019, and to remain in full force and effect until June 30th, 2022. We have a second.
Second?
Okay. Welcome back.
Not much to say, Mr. Chairman. The board already approved the appointment of Mr. DeMarco pending the successful contract negotiations, which we were successful. And so what I present to the board now is the result of those negotiations.
Okay.
I have a quick comment, and I spoke to Justin before the meeting. I've expressed to my colleagues, and have been consistent throughout my time on the Board of Selectmen and prior, that I think it's inappropriate to have as part of a contract in it for use of a municipal vehicle for personal use. So for that purpose, and especially in a time when the budgetary situation that our community faces is tight, and we look around and we ask people to find areas where you might be able to save, here's one that I think is quite obvious that we'd be able to save, and I don't think that there's a necessary requirement that one individual or any individual have use of a town vehicle for their personal use. So for that reason, I told Justin that it has nothing to do with Justin himself. I voted to approve him as our DPW director, and I look forward to working with him, and I think he's going to be a fantastic addition to our staff. But I think because it's so important to me that other people see, and that the school committee sees, and that, everybody recognizes that we just can't be finding places where we can, these are opportunities for us to save some, even though it's small, to save some money. And so therefore, I'm going to vote no on this contract. It's the contract, it's not the individual or the position, it's the contract.
Okay. Ladies?
No, I'm fully in favor of the contract as written, and I welcome Justin here. I look forward to working with him. I can't wait.
I reiterate that. Welcome on board. I think it'll be great to have you.
Okay. So having heard what David said, just so everyone's aware, we're not purchasing a vehicle for Justin. Justin's going to assume a vehicle we already have, we're already paying for, and we already insure and register and pay those expenses. The only expense would be in gasoline, and Justin lives in Hudson, Massachusetts, so the gasoline expense to commute from Maynard to Hudson is a minimal amount, and that's why there's no strenuous objection from the rest of us, at least in my opinion. But
I also feel
Just
that
for a frame of
there's,
reference.
the nature of the job is that, and having some experience in it, the nature of the job is, as a DPW director, you should be on call. There are times that you respond from your house. There are times when you go right to the scene, or that you are evaluating roads right as you come into town. So I would much rather have him have a car that we know works, that we know is good, that will get him here when he needs to be here. And again, the fact that we're not buying a car, you know, we own it, it's part of our fleet. I completely agree.
okay. So that'll all be answered. Anybody else?
I agree with that.
Okay.
I mean,
Just checking.
hold
Just wanna
on.
get a
My
chance.
understanding too is it's very industry standard for DPW directors to have cars so that they can respond in the middle of the night and emergencies and address things in a timely fashion. So that's part of why I feel it important to ratify the contract as it's written.
Okay. All right, all that being said, all those in favor of ratifying the contract? Opposed? All right. Thank you. Thank you. So we'll sign it, and then Becky will have it. You can sign it with Becky. Good luck. See you on September 30th. Thanks.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
All right. So, when you'll just get him. He hasn't signed it, so we'll sign it. Then you get
Yeah, he'll swing around.
All right. Next up, police and fire.
This one does. Okay.
First up is the Maynard Police Department. We have a new patrolman. Just chit-chat in the back of the room.
Chief.
All right, gentlemen.
You're up. Ah, see? You're already trying to get your stuff for him.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chief.
Here today to ask for the appointment of Adam Hyde. As a backdrop, Sergeant Corrigan resigned in July, early July, well, actually June, we knew about it, so we solicited applications. We actually received close to 40. Lieutenant Noble kind of organized the process. We selected, I believe, 5 people to interview that were all academy trained. Chairman De Silva was present for the interviews, and I think Adam did exceptional and definitely was the standout candidate. Adam went to high school in Fitchburg, lives in Shirley. He's 23 years old, and he's in the first class of the Fitchburg State University program that they get a bachelor's degree, the police academy, and then the follow-up, the last year, is a master's degree. So he graduated in June? Was it
May.
In May. He's been going through the police academy all summer. He graduates on Friday, and the plan is we'll be at the graduation on Friday and welcoming him Monday morning to Maynard. So after we had, just so you're aware, after we made the selection, I received multiple unsolicited endorsements from Adam. One of them being Sergeant Duggan, who's one of the drill instructors at the police academy that he's at. So Sergeant Duggan was very, very positive and favorable about, hiring him and working with him, which is a big endorsement. But then some other police chiefs that he's known for a long time called afterwards and really praised him. So very confident in our choice, and we're really looking forward to him starting here on Monday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
We didn't vote yet.
So we're just waiting for the vote.
I'm the one who met
We're
him.
just confident.
Motion to approve new patrolman Adam C. Hyde with effective date of September 16th, 2019. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you.
Now
Thank you.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to swear him in. And his family's here. I don't know
Yeah.
who he
So,
brought with him, but
So, Mike, you gonna come up? Is your family here? You can have them come up with you? Have them come up? Come on,
Come on.
My dad
photo up.
and my 3 sisters.
You coming, Mike?
Wait a minute, I heard mom, dad, and 3 sisters. Now we got the...
You're taller than all of them. Get in line.
All right.
Okay.
Now,
Actually swearing in.
Mr. Downey will swear you in.
Do you, Adam Hyde?
Can we stand? We're gonna have a photo walk. You gotta at least be in the photo.
I thought we just getting him, okay. So you want to raise your right hand? Do you, Adam Hyde, solemnly swear to faithfully perform the duties of patrolman, honestly, impartially, and to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you.
You're a lot less nervous.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Good luck, sir. Did you give him pictures of all of our cars?
Yeah. You're on the list.
All right. Next up, a new firefighter. And the firefighter is Ryan Johansson. And we'll make a motion to approve new firefighter Ryan Johansson with an effective date of August 19th, 2019.
Second?
So, second. Okay.
Ryan comes to us from Littleton. His Littleton chief speaks very, very highly of him, and we're very glad to have him aboard. He was one of 34 candidates who went for the job, and
Wow.
he's the other one.
Perfect.
No, you.
You can put X's on, we'll put X's on the floor for the next time.
Okay. Do you, Ryan Johansson, solemnly swear to faithfully perform the duties of firefighter, honestly, impartially, and to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Oh, yeah. You're like, oh, yeah, that dude. Oh, God. Okay. And now everybody will clear out. Or some of them will clear out. No. Well, that's true.
All right. Who's representing the school committee?
Do we want to put those that way? Yeah.
3?
2, 3?
only have 2 that can speak at any one time, so.
They posted you.
I did post it.
You're posted. You're posted, so. Yeah, so,
Mary Jane is here as well, our superintendent.
oh, who's the superintendent?
Mary Jane Rickson is our intern.
Oh,
I
welcome.
haven't met her.
Oh.
No.
Oh, you have to come meet us.
Oh, yeah.
It's not gonna like it.
Have you not met
They're
I
like,
was on the hiring committee, so I thought you guys knew her. Yes.
everybody knows Justine.
Exactly. That could be
All right. So,
Oh, she hasn't been officially introduced.
Okay.
so now you have 2 minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself. And,
This is Mary Jane Rickson.
Look at her.
Board of
She's like,
Selectmen,
hello.
interim superintendent. We are very happy she's here. Want to say a
Nice
word?
to meet you.
My pleasure. I enjoy working here. Everybody's been very nice.
She's on that, too.
Got
so
a
that's
running
always a good
start.
sign.
Everybody's been very helpful. So far, it's been a great relationship.
Welcome. Welcome. All right, so you guys kind of requested a little time, so the
We
floor is
really
yours.
appreciate your giving us that. So we are here, I have talking points I'm going to kind of work off of, so I can go quickly. We're here to publicly share the structural engineer report that we ended up having done because there was, in our pre-K wing, there was visible rust, and it's a different kind of roofing than the rest of the roofing. It's tectum plating. So we needed to make sure that that could bear snow load. And Lydia has some pictures she can show you of the rusting. Physical evidence in case you haven't seen it. In any case, so for that particular part of the roof, a structural engineer came in, and we subsequently shared out the report that that structural engineer was not able to certify that that roof would be able to bear heavy snow load. So there was a great effort, and Mary Jane had just started when we were able to, I think that was middle of August. It was like the week before the teachers came back in, or 10 days before, they were able to figure out an alternate plan for those pre-K classrooms. So those teachers are teaching in classrooms, but in different parts of the building. And now we have are using that as space for professionals and other activities. But what that led us to really consider and be asking here before you today is really looking at the. This is a new development. We really felt it's imperative to take a look at the envelope study and make sure that that's happening. And so that was one of the things that we wanted to bring forth, because recognizing that if it turns, we need to understand what's happening with the full roof, given this has been going on for many years, and to help us guide the immediate planning requirements. So if there are repairs needed, in order to be able to occupy that building, and you work backwards from September 2020, that means while the building is not occupied, most likely that's when those repairs need to happen. So that would be in the summer of 2020. And then we would work backwards, and we all know with the budget, then we would need to be able to know that information by the next few months. And that would mean the envelope study done so that we could use that information to consider both of this, to consider, obviously, we just did a bunch of renovations in that portion of the building, so considering the recent investment that taxpayers have made and trying to make sure that we're protecting that as well. And that would feed into the FY21 budget considerations for all of the town. We understand, we know the RFQ is the next step in that, so I do understand that is, I know, Greg, I look at you and I know how much you have been dealing with. You just got the DPW director tonight, coming in a month, and still we won't have someone for facilities until. So I just appreciate that you continue to hear us as we advocate for what we were looking to get this done.
I know that Greg is working on that.
I have a draft complete.
Yeah, so we spoke about it today.
Yeah.
Do you need these back?
You can keep
So-
them.
yeah,
I can
so-
also send you the digital files if
I
you
ask
want.
one quick question about those photos, and Josh, you might be able to answer this. Is it usual in a roof to have nails going through the roof like that? Wouldn't that lead to just automatically having water come through, given that it opens?
I know it does seem a little counterintuitive, but no, that is traditional. That's how you actually anchor the substructure down. The rubber membrane above is what actually separates keeps the water out.
All right, thank you.
So when Melissa's done looking at them, can you put them in the, as part of the minutes with the, with that report?
Can you email it to us, the digital?
Thanks.
Yeah, you have them from the meeting notes from this summer, but I will send them to you separately. Yeah.
That would probably be better, right?
One of the thousands may have received.
So I can.
Yeah.
Specifically those pictures.
Yeah, yeah.
So I know that we've all received several different emails and notes and letters of concern.
Yeah.
And, we're obviously.
Appreciate you receiving those.
And we've talked since we got some of those, so I think that we're all in the same place as being on board with knowing what has to be done, and we're committed to have it done. We have to just follow the rules, and hopefully we'll get them done as quick as we can.
So, Mr. Chairman, I have an initial draft of the RFQ. That's the request for qualifications. So, per the designer selection law, which is a little complicated, you can do just the study, which is what I'm focusing on, because I need to have a approximate cost of whatever the recommendations may be, whether it be full repairs, replacement, reinforcement, whatever. So we hire a professional consultant to do that study, much more than just the walkthrough that the engineer did the other day. They will provide us their recommendations with estimated costs. Then I will incorporate that into what I propose to the Capital Planning Committee, to this body, and to the Budget Subcommittee. Then those costs and the recommendations to fund for that will be incorporated into the Capital Planning Committee's submission for their capital budget, which will be submitted to the town administrator, which I'll submit back to the selectmen to be included in the warrant for the spring town meeting, because in all likelihood it may require borrowing, which requires a town meeting vote, and it needs to be incorporated into the overall fiscal year 21 budget.
Okay.
In addition to other capital items that also need to be addressed.
Okay. So I know that some of the folks here were at the event last spring when our Congresswoman Trahan gave out flags. You know, she presented flags to the kids at Green Meadow, and I think it was K and 1. And so she gave flags to a different child from each class to bring back to their class. So anyways, I had a discussion with her that day about money for a fire station type thing, and she said, there's not a lot of money in the federal government for fire stations. She said, but we have great things going on for other issues. So I sent her a note about that, you know, what the other issues, one of the other issues was education in schools. So I sent her a note, and so hopefully she's responsive and, you know, at least she knows, aware of the issue, along with, you know, Jamie and Kate, who are well aware of our issues in relation to the Green Meadow School. So she now has, hopefully will have the Green Meadow School on her radar as she goes through her budgets and her, you know, asks and wants in Washington. So we'll see. But
Yeah, I appreciate that.
we'll find out. Other than that, you know,
Yeah.
I think it's the one thing that I want to definitely reassure people about is, you know, we all did receive many emails this weekend, and that's great, and we appreciate that. It kind of took me off guard because Green Meadow School and the roof issue and everything else has really never been far from our radar for this year. It's kind of a given that somehow it's going to have to get done. And so I'm the chair of the Budget Subcommittee meeting, the Budget Subcommittee, which is a makeup of School Committee, FinCom, and Board of Selectmen. And, you know, we have looked at it. So it's not like any of us are considering, well, I can't speak for everybody, but it wasn't like it's not on everybody's radar.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to assure people that, because I think that sometimes people get the impression, well, it was said, but it's never done, or it's going to get pushed aside or whatever, and I just want to assure people that that's not what is happening here.
It's also been in FinCom discussions, so I know that it is happening across the town, and that does lead to, so a couple of things. So I was trying to think about that, because I know, being on a school committee board and knowing the subcommittee structures, I then know that you all have been having some of those conversations and trying to figure that out in these subcommittees, which are also public meetings, and that you're using the handy, amazing spreadsheet. Like, we're at this point, we're at this exciting point in the town where we actually have the structures in place and the things in place that we need to do what we've been saying we've been wanting to be able to do for a long time, which is being able to really consider the long-range plan and the capital needs and the impacts to the town and how do we get the different town needs met. And I get that you're looking at that. And when I say what I'm asking for with this roof, I then immediately move to, and the impact and how, for us to all know as a town, because this isn't the only thing that we need to, and this is all of us, like, right? So to be able to consider, if revenue isn't going to be the most immediate thing, it looks like within this year, I'm wondering of us being able to, and I know it's not an easy thing to do, but being able to consider what are all the various needs in the town, and how would we be able to meet the various needs, knowing that water and sewer infrastructure is coming down the pike, and the other capital needs that are now on the capital needs plan, and we have just being able to consider in the long-range plan, by when and what would the different ways that, which include?
Well, Bethlen, you're speaking to the choir in many ways. But what I say is, I mean, your conversation basically mimics the conversation that we
Yeah.
had at our last, and
Yeah.
at most of our budget subcommittee meetings
Yeah.
over the course of time. And at the last one, there was a presentation made that was really outstanding, based on some work that's been done over years, beginning with John Larkin and then evolving through Bob McCarthy, where basically what it does is it allows us to look at the future and look at the various, just by plugging in numbers to see what's coming down the pike, and they're scary, and it is scary, and it has been scary for 15 years. But sometimes you have to look in the dark closet, you know, and address those issues. I do want to comment on one thing before I forget. One of the things I've been heartened by with response to this issue with Green Meadows roof is that, yes, I did get a lot of emails over the weekend, but many of them were personalized to the effect where people commented on the fact that I know this is not the only thing that you're going to be dealing with. And that means that people have an understanding of that. So if we can work together as a community and establish our priorities and establish our values and establish where we want to go and have a plan for that, I sound like Elizabeth Warren, then we can move forward in such a way that we can be successful in doing that. So I'm hopeful that this is just the beginning of a conversation that will lead us down a path that we can address not only this, but other things. But it's going to be hard work, and it's going to be a lot of work, and it's going to take patience on a lot of people's parts.
It's just, any number of issues will play into it. We're going to talk about trash stickers in a half hour or so. We're going to talk about
Yeah.
any number of things, and everything, the problem with everything is everything adds to what we pay to live here.
Right.
And that's going to affect a
Right.
lot of people in a negative way, and that's a major consideration in all of it, but,
Yes. It is. And from what I understand, there are ways to mitigate some of that, but there's long processes to apply to make that happen based on income level. And so I know that this is not easy. We look forward to continuing to be a part of those conversations. I do want to say that the other piece that I think would be helpful in the short term for considering this moving forward, and kind of, we know that you're doing, that these conversations are all happening in the different groupings in relation to, for the group of people that have been following along with, for obvious reasons, considerations around Green Meadow and the roof and that piece of it. We were wondering about starting to connect Mary Jane and Greg to be able to have conversations so that then Mary Jane could report out when it makes sense around timeline and when things are happening. So, and also for the sake of considering the MOU, I don't know if, Lydia, if you have anything to say, like where that's left off. You have this eyebrow raised that I don't know how you feel.
Mary Jane and I meet regularly.
So,
You meet regularly already. That's great. So maybe that's just what you just add
yes,
then.
that didn't used to happen.
Exactly. See? So many things going on that people should know.
It didn't used to happen that the town administrator and the school department had such a good relationship, and then a few years back with Dawn, we kind of forced it upon Dr. Girardi and Kevin Sweet, and since then we've been meeting with the chair of this committee, the chair of your committee, and the superintendent and the town administrator. And it's not to just talk about money things, it's just other issues that might pop up and other subjects, so it's something that we had done in the past. The other thing that we've talked about at a couple of our most recent meetings, and I know I've talked to a lot of people in this room about it, was to set up a meeting with our board, your board, and the FinCom at some point in a roundtable discussion with one agenda item, and it's just all things made, or just a conversation in one room, get everyone in one room one night, and just everybody, whatever anybody wants to talk about. You bring your own little agenda, and we talk about those things and get, just different ideas out there and see if there's not something that we're missing through conversations that we're not having with each other, and that type of meeting, and to include any of the administration folks that are willing or wanting to participate. So, I'll leave that to, I'll ask Greg to set that up and see when we can get that done, but I just think it's probably never happened except for on our February budget meetings, and those are pretty those are pretty much designed for the budget, and that's all we talk about. But I think it would be nice to get all the groups in the room, it'll be a public meeting, so if people want to attend and listen and sit in and hear, that's possible, and probably include a public comment section about it too, but it'd just be nice to get the 15 people or 16 people who were kind of, charged with getting these things done in the same room, and just kick ideas around and see what we come up with, and, and also so we all know who each other are. So that's a little bit down the road to set that up, but that's just something, I feel strongly that it would be a good thing. If others feel differently, that's okay too. But I just think it would be helpful for all of us to get to know each other a little bit and find out what we think about, all things Maynard. So, you can't, I trademarked that,
I
Oh,
so
like
stop.
that.
All things Maynard.
All things Maynard,
Maynard is
yeah.
we are
It's gonna be
small,
the
but
new-
we are
It's gonna be
mighty.
the new sticker instead of only
NPR,
in.
right?
Instead of only in all things, but anyway, so, so I think we're all, I think we're all on the same page, and I think that we're all getting on the same page with
Yeah.
Mr. Estabrook and the FinCom, so that we all know there's a problem, and we all have it in the forefront of our minds at every meeting we attend, and, we'll get it done because the kids of the town deserve it, so it's important.
Yes, and I just want to mention, we are also having Kate and Jamie come to,
Good
Mary
luck.
Brandon was able to get them to come to our next
It might be the first.
September 26th school committee meeting. They were together one other time.
That's one wedding anniversary I'm gonna be happy to celebrate with my wife.
So everyone is welcome to attend.
September 26th?
The 26th,
September
Thursday.
26th.
September 26th. Perfect. We will be letting them know the impact of the potential proposed foundation budget legislation, the change in that, and the negative impact that will have on Maynard.
The proposed change that they just took off the agenda today.
Oh, did they?
The governor
Okay.
took it off the agenda today.
I'm glad you know
Good.
this. That's
Yeah,
good to
the
know.
governor
Good to know.
removed that from consideration for this year,
All right.
Wow.
the foundation budget. There's a lawsuit as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was hoping it wouldn't happen.
yeah, that was kind of walking out the door to come in. That did happen today. So it was removed for consideration on the budget for this year, so that's a whole nother year. We have to wait to hopefully get that to change, so. I think that's, that necessitates a different conversation with
Yeah.
Kate on the 26th,
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Maybe they can come back with something better.
But yeah, that came across.
Well, that's,
That was a
I
late
don't know if
afternoon.
the plan that was presented was going to be all that beneficial to Maynard
Oh, no,
anyway.
it was
so-
not.
No,
It was not.
It wasn't, yeah.
it's not, but it's just a revamp of the system that needs to be revamped, but.
So the only other thing I just want to put out is making sure, and we'll see as we move forward, but that there's, that if we did need to do work in the summer, that if we have the town meeting vote in the spring, that would allow then, we'd be on track and on time to be able to do that work in the summer, because I know then,
That would be ideal. I'm looking into that. I don't want
Okay.
to tell you for sure, but yes, conceptually, yes, but
we could do a special town meeting if we needed to,
Of course,
ahead of, yeah.
I
I mean,
try-
obviously,
right.
we don't need to then.
I like to do less town meetings if possible, but
I am all for streamlining. Efficiency is good.
we'll look at the timing of it and then, and the demands. Yep.
The envelope study will be able to help that conversation along.
Absolutely.
Right,
Absolutely.
whatever.
Because I don't know what degree of work we need, so if
Right.
it doesn't require borrowing, which I don't know how likely it may, but
Right.
if I don't have to go to town meeting, I'd rather not.
Very
Okay.
good. Anyone else?
I
Anything you
wanted
want
to say, yeah,
Please
one
do.
thing. Sorry, I'll stand up. No, I'll stay over here. Hi, Natasha Rivera. I just happened to come from the Green Meadow School Council first meeting of the year, so I just wanted to also share some feedback that the administration, teachers, and parents had in relation to what's happening, and it was very positive to the extent that things have settled in. It's unfortunate how the circumstances of how the building is not fully opened, but it seems to have settled, and everyone is happy, okay with how things are going, and students are learning and thriving right now, which is the most important thing for our focus. One of the concern that was repeatedly brought up, and Bethlyn echoed this, was that, and I think a lot of this is just people are carrying some historical angst a lot, And so it's really hard to know that we have different people in different roles who maybe are responding in a different way to things. People are just being, carrying a lot of that. This has been a long, ongoing issue, and how do we separate those emotional pieces a bit? And I think that's really what was explained to me and what was shared really is that I think people just want to see some planning, more firm planning happening, and more insight. And to what Bethlyn had said is that I think the visibility or non-visibility into those updates or conversation, I think, is what makes it hard for people to understand all the activity that's happening behind the scenes, all the conversations that are ongoing. You and Mary Jane being able to speak, I think that is so critical. But I think we, in a way, and as a school committee member, trying to understand how I can effectively share that information to the constituents who reach out to me is important, and how I can also best do that, and explaining, yes, this is the RFQ, this is the timeline when it is expected to go out, and then just know that there's something next happen. And we saw this happen over the summer with the project, right, where people just, as soon as they started seeing happenings, the reassurance, the confidence was really felt a little bit more in the community, and we haven't quite gotten there yet, and I think that's where a lot of the concern or the emotional piece is still just kind of like, is it going to happen? And so that's just something I just wanted to convey, and not that I need any response to, but just some feedback that I received that I think is important to escalate to you all, as well as we're all stakeholders in this process. So.
And that's why I wanted to say that up front as well.
Yes.
It's just that it is, unfortunately, I think sometimes there is a lot of past history that kind of gets brought to the forefront in a lot
Absolutely.
of different things that we do. But I think I said it earlier to someone, is that, the people who are in the rooms now, and the office and the town officials and the school officials that are in place now, are not the town officials and school officials and elected officials that have been in place in the past. So, I do understand.
And the
but
town is at a different place now.
And the
as
town
well.
is at a different place, and the relationships between town and school are in a different place. So I'm really hoping that we can all move forward together. But we are absolutely, it is definitely on.
And that is so true. I know that we, the conversations I've engaged with, even at the pre-K session when this kind of the survey was shared, is that, it's a leap of faith, right? It's a leap of faith for the community. When they come from not seeing something, and then we're saying, trust us a little bit more, that we're working behind the scenes. And so that's where I want to be able to, or all of us to be able to say, look, this is what we're doing for you. This is going to happen this year. And that's kind of the reassurance I think that our community is just seeking. So I appreciate everyone's efforts. Again, continuing the collaborative conversations. I really look forward to our roundtable. Chris, I think that would be a great idea as we think about student retention as well. A lot of that, our education system is a service, right? Is a service that we provide a town, and part of retaining students is how great of a service that we are providing as well. So all of those are like very muddied conversations that kind of build in, and I just wanted to just kind of advocate and echo and also extend appreciation for all your support.
Thank you. Thank you for your support as well. That's it. Get out. No, you guys have to. I think you guys have to open and close your meeting too, since it was posted. So don't forget that. Don't forget to do that. If there's anything you say in the next 48 hours will be part of it. But anyway, I think you have to. So unless you guys have more, I think because I think we're heading in the right direction. I think to some of the things that Natasha said. I think some of the some people's scars are still a little bit sore, not fully healed. So it's going to take some time to heal. It's going to take some time to heal some of those scars. But I think as everybody works together, I think we will. So forward is the only way to go at this point.
I gotta say, we're together. This is our community. Like that's just the bottom line. Like no matter what, we're gonna see each other in the new 129 Parker grocery store. I mean, we say that, but it's for real. That's
a lot of good things happening, but we have to make more good things happen.
Yeah. So I'm Thank you. Thank you for
All
the
right,
time.
thank you for coming.
So, yeah, we have to open and close. So, take a motion to open our public meeting, a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen here.
Do you need a
I
second?
need a motion, yeah, in a second.
I make a motion that we open our meeting with the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. And now we can say we've had the conversation, we're done with our conversation, so I
I make a motion that we close our meeting with the, joint meeting with the Board of
Any
Selectmen.
discussion? All in favor?
All right. Well, thank you. It was very nice to meet you, Mary Jane. Good luck.
Welcome.
If you need
Thank you for your
anything-
time.
If you need
Thank you
anything
very
from
much,
us,
everyone.
get in touch
Thank
with
you.
Greg.
What's that?
I said if he needs anything from us, to get in touch with Greg.
Yes, that's how it works.
That's how it works.
All right, well,
Perfect.
thank you all.
Appreciate that.
All right, Boston Bean. Come on up. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi.
So you folks are the new owners of Boston Bean,
Good evening.
Hopefully.
In the process.
the process, okay?
Excellent.
Congrats.
Thank you. When-
So I'll read, I have a motion that I'll read, and then we'll have the conversation, we have a conversation. And the motion is to accept and approve the new common victualler and entertainment license at Boston Bean House, 102 Main Street, Maynard. New owner, Maynard Giovanni.
Yes.
I said it right. You said it wrong.
I just tried to help.
All right, so welcome.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
welcome to our meeting,
Yeah.
welcome to Maynard. Does anybody have any questions? And your first name is?
Anita.
Anita?
Anita,
Okay.
yes. With an E.
Did I pronounce your name first correctly?
Letter? Yeah.
Letter? So welcome. Does anybody have any questions for?
I just have a question about the, so the license itself says the time is from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., I think?
Yes.
Are you planning on staying open later in the afternoon?
We're gonna
So,
try.
Yes.
Great.
We heard, after we're seeing the place and kind of looking into the community and what they liked and what they don't like, we realized that people are looking forward to something later at night. We still want to keep the loyal customers based on what the menu is, but we still want to add new stuff. So we were thinking that if the people would like to have that open later, then we are willing to.
Option. Great, thank you for considering that.
Was there anything in particular that drew you to Maynard? To look at a place in Maynard or to find Maynard? Or
We had no idea where Maynard was. We are coming here from Worcester.
We are a hidden gem.
Yes, we realized that. So we found the place online, and then we contacted a realtor, and we went through the whole process. And as soon as we saw the place, we loved it. And it's very welcoming. It's very spacious. You can turn it around, and you can make it breakfast. You can make it very family oriented, and you can also make it as a restaurant. So it all the options, and it's affordable for the moment.
Yeah.
Are you
Well, welcome to town.
property too? or
We
just-
wish, no, no.
Maybe if the restaurants, when the
The
restaurant's
rent
successful.
the rent is a little bit high, but if you compare it with the square footage, then you can assume that it's within the range, but it's a little bit on the higher side.
So will the menu transition into like a dinner type menu in the afternoon, or evening?
Yes, but for the first 6 months, we want to keep it as it is. We just want to
Okay.
see
See what works.
what works and
We
what.
will have specials every day and see what people likes or what people don't. And, from there, couple of weeks, couple of days a week, see probably Friday or Saturday, just try it at the beginning, how it's gonna work out for us, and then,
It's going to
from
be.
there we're gonna decide.
Yeah, it's going to be mostly what people want. We love to make food. We love cooking. So we want to bring what we like. We want to bring it to the menu and see that you guys will like it as well.
It's a curse.
Perfect.
It's a curse, cooking.
It is. Kind of in a way it is, but it's a good curse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He cooks.
No, so, no, that's great. I don't know, does anyone else have any other questions? We appreciate your interest in Maynard, and I think we all wish you well at
Thank you.
Boston Bean.
Congratulations.
We wish to continue. We wish to continue with the process. We are right in the middle toward the very end, so we still have to do our due diligences.
Okay.
So
Well,
good
so
luck.
all in
Before-
favor of
yes.
this vote, raise your hand. Okay, so
Good
that's.
luck.
that's
Welcome
good.
to
Good
town.
luck.
Thank you. Thank you, we appreciate it.
And if you need any more from town halls, you know Becky,
Yes, very familiar with that.
okay? And good luck.
Perfect.
I'll share one.
Good luck.
I'll share one thing.
Okay.
They have inquired if the night business takes off, they'll be back in front of you for a potential liquor license.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Interesting. Okay.
all right.
Perfect. Great.
Thank you very much. Good
Thank
luck.
you. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Appreciate it, you too.
Coolidge School Working Group. 2 appointments.
Yes.
So, I'm just.
You know you were appointed earlier?
Yeah, we appointed
You
you.
know, I,
Consent agenda, and you were here anyway.
We're gonna grill you, but you weren't
Okay.
here.
let's hear the excuses. I was at the planning board meeting, and they had more questions
So-
than
That's
I
okay.
had
Ken
realized,
answered,
so I
Ken answered on your
apologize.
behalf for all the questions.
That's great.
So I have, so I only have one question before we start, and John Kramer, who I don't know, I don't have any objection based on the, the information you guys are giving us, but it says Stowe, he lives in Stowe?
Yes,
Is
I'm
it-
actually,
are we allowed to put him on the thing? Okay.
yes, I had
All
inquired
right,
about that
okay.
with Greg and legal counsel. I'm very excited to have John Kramer join the Coolidge School Working Group because as we enter a phase where the proposal has been posted and to sell the Coolidge School, and we will get proposals in on October 3rd. We'll be rating those proposals, and John has worked in the real estate development business for over 20 years in Boston, traveling the world, so he really gives us a leg up on negotiations, knowing what is viable for a developer. You know, some people might say, oh, well, it's not financially viable. He can help us out with that and help us to see reality there. So I'm just elated. Although his address is in Stowe, John has lived in Maynard for over 20 years, only recently moved there. And he also has a business in town on Nason Street.
No,
So he has multiple
Right.
perspectives there.
Yeah, that's fine, I just saw it, and I just actually asked David, I said, are we allowed to put a guy from Stowe?
I was trying to think
As long
outside
as
of
it's
the box.
okay, It's
so,
okay with
yeah.
us, no, it's great, I
Yeah.
just wasn't sure.
You've done
I
it
didn't want
before.
I didn't want to, huh?
You've done it before.
Yeah, no, okay.
Okay.
Well, you didn't print the address right on here
Right,
like this
you're right,
before,
you're
so.
right.
All right, anyways, so,
Have we done it before while you've been here? I don't think so.
No, but you do have non-residents.
so
Yeah.
I'll read the motion, and then we'll have any further discussion if there is any. And the motion is to accept and approve 2 new appointments to the Coolidge School Working Group as follows: Ken Newhouser and John Kramer, with terms expiring on December 31st, 2020. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. All right, any further discussion?
I would just ask, John, would you mind standing? And I wanted to thank you for being so willing to help out our town.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We do appreciate it.
And Ken Newhouser couldn't make it due to other commitments, but he brings both the Historical Commission perspective. He's also an abutter to the Coolidge property, and he was on the prior Coolidge School Reuse Committee. So we get all those stakeholder groups in one person, so good additions.
Great. All right. All those in favor? Thank you, and thank you for volunteering.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen,
Chairman,
how are you doing tonight?
we're doing well. How about yourself?
Great, thanks.
Thank you for having us here this evening. I understand your time is tight, so I'll try to be efficient, which is not necessarily something I'm known for, but I'll do what I can. So Adam and I are here representing the Master Planning Steering Committee. We wanted to give you a brief update of where we are, and also as part of the packet that you were given, we gave you our current draft of goals and recommendations and wanted to see if there's any feedback you wanted to provide us. In short, This board appointed our committee almost 2 years ago. I think it was December of 2017, if that sounds right.
That's when we started to be appointed.
And throughout that time, we engaged VHB, which is the consultant working with us. We've done stakeholder interviews, created a draft of existing conditions in Maynard, which sort of establishes where are we today. We then have conducted several outreach sessions at the Maynard Golf Course, at the Maynard Public Library, at Maynard Fest, talking to residents and getting their input. A lot of these, again, were facilitated by VHB, but in the case of Maynard Fest, you just had members of the committee talking to members of the public. Where we are right now is that we have a draft of the existing conditions, as I mentioned. We also have a draft vision for the community. We have a draft list of goals and a draft list of recommendations. What we hope to have happen is get some feedback from the board, as we've done, reaching out to various other stakeholders, including the school committee, planning board, economic development, so on and so forth, to get their direct feedback on the draft goals and recommendations, and the committee has worked to consolidate that into one list, because you can't have a spreadsheet of 20 different thoughts. We get your feedback, and then what we hope to do is, over the course of the next 3 or 4 months, work to really finalize all the elements, including the implementation checklist, which is meant to be a sort of a recommended priority of these recommendations, and then come back to the planning board and the board of selectmen probably in the January-February timeframe to get a more formal endorsement of the plan. In the case of the planning board, we legally are obligated to get their endorsement. Obviously, it's prudent to ask the Board of Selectmen for their endorsement, and ultimately where we hope to end up is before town meeting next May to get town meeting's endorsement. Now, there's, I think, some logistical details to work out with the town administrator and the town moderator about how that actually happens. I'm sure that can be overcome, and it's really what I hope to have happen is, at that point, we have a plan. The town has endorsed it. We have some next steps for implementation, because I think that's an important thing, that this report doesn't sit on the shelf, and it will allow you and other policymakers to use this as sort of a set of guiding principles similar to the community development principles that we have up on the wall here that several of us have worked on in years past, and really try to guide some decisions for the future. So that was sort of a long-winded summary of how we got here, but I'd like to ask you folks for if you've had a chance to review the draft goals and recommendations, and see if you have any specific feedback.
Yeah, the specific feedback that I have is I appreciate the way it's written, and that anybody that reads it can understand it. Typically, when we have these in front of us and we use an engineer to do it, there's a lot of language that a lot of people, it's not that they don't understand it, but it's foreign. It's almost a foreign language. This is great that it's so easy to understand and read through, that you don't need, you don't find yourself looking 2 or 3 things. What does that mean? It's very clear and
So I think I'm going to thank the board for doing that, because you assigned an engineer to the committee, but you also assigned an English major. So we complement each other's skills, and you make sure that it's actually intelligible.
The reading of it is very easy, very simple to understand. If you go in, you start reading like our housing development plan that we agreed to and signed, 16, 18 months ago. You need 2 lawyers to figure out every other paragraph, and this is perfect. Anybody that picks this up can read it, understand and get an idea where, the folks that we entrusted with this master plan to do is, they can understand where we want it, where you guys think the community thinks we want to go in a short order. So I appreciate that, and thank you for that, and for all the effort it took to do all this.
One of the advantages of a document like this is that, with something that's very narrow focused like the housing plan, that does need a very precise technical aspect to it. And this is really sort of all comers, everyone who lives or wants to, have a business or develop in this town, we're trying to reach as large a population as possible, and to give guidance that will be clear and easy to understand in the future.
I was curious, I apologize, well, I have not been to the meetings, other than I did one at the country club, that was great, but I have not been at the subsequent ones.
Yes.
I was curious just about the decision to include, for the Maynard's Creative Culture, it specifies to ensure the Maynard Public Library has the staffing resources necessary, which I understand that the Maynard Public Library needs staffing, but it's curious that it was that staffing made it into a master plan. So I just was that typical to mandate something, or not mandate, recommend something like that?
Can you point me to the specific?
Page 5, the bottom of page 5, NCH 3A.
Okay, thank you. So, I can speak in generalities. I'd have to go back through to try to trace where every comment has come from is a little bit challenging because we've had input from so many sources. In some cases, like when you get into public services and facilities, there is sort of some language that speaks to ensuring that they have the resources available to do their job in so many words or less. I mean, I'm not going to necessarily take the time to pull out the specific comments. So I don't think the comments out of place. I think, so I don't know if I would consider it atypical. Is there some specific concern?
Is it just specifically the use of the term staffing? Staffing,
I think,
Okay.
that's what it is.
Okay.
But it's, I know, so page 8, PFS 3 is the ensure the town has the resources necessary to handle public safety and service needs of the community. But it doesn't really it doesn't ensure anything, really. I mean, ensures that, but, under A, B, and C, it doesn't give that specific type of thing. So it was curious to me why the library got that. It seems like it almost ties hands, even though, again, I realize the master plan is a direction gathering, but, yes? You have a...
If I can share something, if you look back at the library's report from Steve Weiner every year, he always brings up the staffing, and it has to do with the funding sources. Mike Guzzo,
I do see that one.
Be able to answer to that too, but there is something with the state mandate on a library that they have to have.
That they have to continue their
Yes,
so maybe we have to continue that staffing at that level in order to continue, right, okay, all right. So I was just curious.
Thank you.
As I read this over the weekend, first off, I was looking at it because I thought our discussion was going to be, critique and question and, whatever. And I started to read it, and I said to myself, there's not much that I can critique, question, or throw things out. The one question that I would have for you is, are you comfortable that the emphasis does not focus, and it's not exclusive, but almost it may weigh relative to economic development on the downtown as opposed to looking globally at the community as a whole? And how did that discussion evolve and go forward so that we included the outskirts of the town?
So we've definitely had a lot of discussions about downtown. We have had plenty of discussions about non-downtown adjacent areas as well. They're a little harder to pin down because we don't have quite as many zone spaces that aren't downtown or downtown adjacent. We've actually had a recent discussion about what is downtown, what defines downtown with the D, what defines downtown with the lowercase d. And, you can imagine the English major led that one, not the engineer.
I'm thinking specifically, as I look at the future of Maynard and I see, Route 62,
Right.
Powder Mill Road, as
Yeah.
being an area of
And
economic
and we do-
development that's not really tapped into at this point.
Exactly.
But I
We-
think it's beginning to become evident that it's something that
We do have some focus on the Powder Mill corridor in there. Just, it's not as big of an emphasis in the master plan because, we talk about it, but we also know that there's a lot of things that are moving parts in downtown that do need a little more emphasis and a little more guidance. I think as the Powder Mill corridor gets developed or redeveloped in certain areas, that will make itself more of a priority. And, you know, the core of the downtown leads to that in some ways.
So I just want to add a couple
Yep.
points, if I may.
Yep.
So I agree with what Adam said, but specifically, as an example, David, under goal ED3 recommendation C, it says, in conjunction with the towns of Acton, Sudbury, Concord, develop a redevelopment strategy for the Powder Mill corridor. So that's not the only example, but I wanted to sort of pull out a specific example that the conversations have gone beyond downtown, and we've also asked the planning board to explicitly consider what I would call general land use recommendations. So we've written some land use stuff in here, which you've seen, but we've really sort of asked the planning board to go through, based on their experience, which is more hands-on than ours, of course, of what specific things they would like to see. We've yet to get the final set of comments, but those conversations with the planning board have certainly been beyond just downtown, and been speaking to the whole town.
Right.
Anybody else? Melissa? Christine?
No, I participated a lot.
Anything else from you guys? I mean,
I do have one thing to ask of the selectmen is, as you plan, you know, I mentioned our desire to come before the Springtown meeting and get the endorsement of the town, and we will look to come to you later with a more formal finished product and ask for your formal endorsement. We'd like, if possible, to be able to make an interim report at the October town meeting, and I don't know if that requires anything special on the warrant, but
It's not on the warrant, but,
it would be, you know,
conversation with Mr. Downey.
so, yeah.
I mentioned.
I think
I
the
mentioned
moderator
it
just
today.
routinely asks, are there any reports from town committees?
It's definitely the town moderator show, so you gotta.
Well,
Right, so typically there's an article that says any warrant reports and things, and so if we could just put in that standard article, then I'll ask for all the reports.
So acceptance of reports?
Acceptance of an interim report, yeah.
yeah, this will be an interim
This will be
report.
interim.
So,
All right,
the
so-
final report, which they wouldn't want to do, that would end their
Okay.
committee. So what we have done in the past, predecessors have done in the past,
Okay.
is just had interim reports. And so if there's an article that talks about reports, then they can offer a report,
Just-
an interim report, which will keep them active.
Right, just so if that's the case, just, I mean, we just have, it's a long way off, but just make sure that,
It's not
you
that
got-
Well, I'm talking about
That long.
October. October, I'd like to do an
October, yeah,
interim.
October, so it's not, yeah, but anyways, make sure, I was thinking spring, but anyways, you have to make sure that, any type of report that you wanna make, you know, what the format they need it in and everything else, we can get it up on the screen.
I mean, I'm happy to talk to Greg offline.
Yeah.
I just wanted to let people know that we'd like to do an interim report at this.
That's a great
fall
idea.
town
I have to think about the procedure a little bit, that's all. We just have to talk about
You
that.
guys will connect, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure
yeah.
it's been done before, it can be done again.
Yeah, it is a good idea, we just have to figure out how to do.
Okay?
There'll be no candy for you on the stage, so bring your own.
Bring my own stage?
Candy.
Candy.
Stage two.
Bring your own candy. I know
Build
you have your own
stages.
stage.
I could
know
build
you have your own
stages.
Build
like-
the stage, both of us.
We both do theater, so.
All right, so that sounds great, for October. Again, you know, thanks to you guys and to everyone else in the group that's, been doing this for almost a year and a half now, so.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
certainly appreciate the time and everything you've put into it and continuing, so we look forward to seeing what it is in October.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you guys.
appreciate your feedback.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks. Trash ticket discussion. Always fun. So, all right, looks like a,
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
This is just a notification, mostly. I was asked to have myself and my staff, primarily Mike Guzzo and Sherry Kane, the treasurer, to look at, as well as DPW staff and whatnot. Everyone worked together to provide the analysis that I have provided in the last selectmen meeting, maybe 2 selectmen meetings ago, that I've also provided to Budget Subcommittee and Finance Committee. In response to the Board of Selectmen's direction to see if it's time to update our trash stickers and to see if we can close the gap between what the town subsidizes to meet the demands of the contract that we have with Harvey and then what we ask of the residents and the use of trash stickers in town. So Mike Guzzo provided the latest analysis, which you see as summary 4. We are not looking to increase the stickers. My understanding of the direction of the board was not to increase the stickers to completely offset subsidizing the cost of the contract, but to help close the gap. However, there's a lot of assumptions through this analysis that we also want to be careful of, that we cannot yet, I don't have enough confidence to budget exactly for these numbers at this time, because we don't know what could be the behavioral change of new trash sticker costs. We just don't know. And Department of Revenue wouldn't buy it either. So we need to, in order to, if we were going to use these to balance the budget, Department of Revenue wouldn't let that fly. But this could help out some revenue adjustments that we probably needed for some time. So I look forward to see the results. Now the board is going to be asked to approve these changes at your following meeting next Tuesday, the 17th. So we've submitted a public hearing notification in the newspaper to hear if there's any public comments at that time.
And when was the last time we had an increase in trash stickers?
Mike, when was the last time we had trash?
We try to figure that out. We know it's at least 9 years.
It's been a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
9 years. Cheryl's been here 7 and I 6. I talked to Becky. Right now we can basically.
I think it's been longer than 12 years. And I think that I think it's important to point out.
The sticker prices have not raised since we put stickers in effect.
I don't think so.
Okay,
They've
well, there you
not-
go.
they have not changed since we started stickers.
I think you're right, and I think it's important to point out that when this program was started, the subsidy from the community, my recollection was it was a $50,000 subsidy from the town, and it was $1 per sticker. That has evolved over time, where the subsidy is now over $300,000.
Right.
And the sticker price has remained the same. Right. There is no other place in, let alone town government or whatever, where you remain with the same price for a service over the course of 15 years without any slight increase at all. And I don't think this is, because I'm a very big proponent of doing this for a number of reasons, mostly because we've lost the meaning of it. It was not supposed to be a subsidized program. It was supposed to be throw-as-you-go program, and it's sort of been lost. And it's not meant to be a revenue generator either. It's meant to basically catch us up to what the program was intended to be. And even with the proposal of doubling this price, so it would be $1 sticker would become $2, and $2 would become $4 a week. If you were to go out to neighboring communities and find out what people who have to have their trash picked up on the corner pay on a monthly basis, it's far beyond a person who throws out 1 bag a week to the tune of $8, or whatever the number might be. So personally, I understand the impact it'll have on some people, but I think it's only fair to the process and the way it was set up to review these sticker prices. If we had stayed with where it's at, if we had stayed and increased it incrementally, my guess would be the prices would be close to $10. But I'm not looking for it to be there.
2 years prior to this ship, when I was in there, 2014, we sat down with Aaron and we actually went through and did a history. We were actually losing, the cost of the expense was about $200,000 more. And that was it, 2 years prior, that was close to $500,000. So Aaron negotiated.
Right.
So this is going to be on next week?
That's right, Mr. Chairman.
He gives 2 options in the motion. It's either $1 increase each, or $2 increase.
Or is it
We can always, I mean,
or do you want to do because the dollar bag,
Well-
would you do $1.50? So the first
Yeah,
option would be
yeah,
$1.50
yeah,
and 3.
So give us the, well, we can write it in when we want when we're here, but it's just,
No, I understand.
do we want to,
We'll just,
do we want to double it overnight, or do we want to double it over the course of 2 years? How do we want to do it? It's a discussion to have for the same reasons.
So what
One
Becky
of
was
the- one of
just
the concerns that this might not be the night for this talk, but
Right.
one of the concerns that I would have is, and I expressed this at the Budget Subcommittee, that if we have a $1 sticker and a $2 sticker, if you increase the dollar, because people were saying, increase $1 on both. And so it'd be $2 for a $1 sticker, as we know it now, and $3 for the $2 sticker. And I believe that's somewhat regressive in that it hurts the people who are purchasing one bag, which is typically the single, and I don't want to be, but an elderly woman or an elderly man that's on a fixed income, that's, so why increase theirs by 100% and increase those that are filling up bags all over the place by 50%? It doesn't seem to make sense to me. So I hope that whatever we do is equitable.
So I just went through, and I have to admit, I was, this came up in our Budget Subcommittee meeting, and, when I first looked at it, it just almost seemed like a no-brainer to double both, because it would hopefully cover most of that subsidy, which was the intent originally, according to what I've heard, when the program started. Since then, with different things coming up and with different things, possibly, capital items and other things that are coming in, I just did a quick inflation calculator. And so 10 years ago, a $1 sticker 10 years ago was worth about $1.20. So if we round that up to $1.50 and then do the $3 sticker for the $2 sticker, that's right? So you're adding 50% to both. Yes, that's what I thought. It's a little bit more helpful. It will help us because we won't be subsidizing $300,000 next year, but it also recognizes the fact that it is something that the residents do have to pay for. So
you're just suggesting a 50%?
A 50% raise.
50%.
Yeah.
So I can-
and I don't know if there's a way that we can, and I know that probably isn't, that we can build in that, obviously we can't raise it this year and next year or whatever, because I think that the strategy behind having those stickers out there and having to replace stickers doesn't really make sense, but I don't know if we can build in maybe in 2 years or in 3 years.
Projected revenue, is that what you're trying to say?
Or the actual sticker. So if we're gonna sit there and say, we'll raise it raise it by
Yeah.
50% this year,
Yep.
and then maybe in 2020, in 2023,
Oh, I'm sorry.
we
Tie in
raise it.
like a schedule of increases.
Exactly.
Oh, we can look into that.
You're saying make it $1.50 and
$3, $1.50
Well, what
and,
you don't see there is we actually, Cheryl and I, we already did that, but you didn't see that. We have about 18 possibilities.
Great.
It's not as if we're using something brand new, but it's
Right.
a recommendation that we put forward based upon it.
We'll have different options for
Yeah, all right, okay, so that'll be good for next week.
You can do whatever you want. It's already done.
oh, there,
All right.
yeah.
Math you're trying to do.
Okay. Anything else on trash stickers? Anybody?
No, Mr. Chairman.
I'll save it.
Not from me. I don't know. Sorry. Were you talking to me?
No,
I had,
we're done. Okay.
That was kind of an angry response,
Sorry.
Chris.
Sorry. It was a long meeting last time.
Give me that little notebook and I caught him off guard. All right, so I'm good with
Come
that.
on.
Let's discuss some draft controls. I'll read all the motions to start, and then we'll get seconds on them, and then we'll discuss them, and then we'll vote them separately. First motion is to accept and approve draft control 1, Town General Fund Budget Fiscal Year 2020 Amendment. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second one is motion to accept draft control 2, amend town zoning bylaw section 3.1.2. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Number 3 is a motion to accept and approve draft control 3, the disposition of 12 Bancroft Street, formerly the Coolidge School. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Number 4 is a motion to accept draft control number 5, amend the bylaw, chapter 41, creating minimum property standards bylaw. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And then the last is motion to accept draft control 6, amend bylaw by creating a new bylaw, chapter 42, municipal charges lien. To a second.
Second?
Thank you. Okay, now we can discuss them all.
Excellent.
So, Mr. Chairman, these are the draft controls, but I don't imagine there will be much, if any, change to the control language before the next meeting, when you'll have to approve the actual warrant.
Right.
The sponsor comments are there, or if not completely there, they're about 90% there.
Okay. Also, I don't know if everyone got it, but there should be some recommendations from the,
So the Finance
FinCom out
Committee,
there.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Mr. Chairman.
It's okay.
What were you saying?
So,
I said there are some recommendations from the FinCom available now that,
Yes.
I don't know if everyone's seen them or not, but they're out there.
on these numbers?
On these,
Not to recommend
on these items. They might not necessarily be the same
Basi-
numbers, but these items are on their thing. And then the other thing I do know is, I was told yesterday by Mr. Prisby that they do anticipate a citizen's petition, and they were just gathering up the last of their signatures, and they would have them to town hall before Friday, which he was told is the deadline.
Okay.
Just-
There's also a second citizens petition, I believe, floating around for the school roof.
Great.
So, and I believe they're almost at signatures too.
Okay.
While we're on that subject. I
Okay.
think that would-
Is that a citizen, is that a petition for action at town meeting, or is that just a petition for, to make a recommendation, or just so we know that there's?
That was
Is that a petition, is that a petition, so, I think that's a petition just so that we know there's X number of parents and people interested enough to sign a petition
Okay,
to.
they were just counting signatures, that's why it threw me off.
I didn't think that, I didn't take that as being a petition for, I haven't signed anything,
I
but
think the
I
amount
don't
of
think there's a
signatures
petition for a
has,
town
they just
meeting
want to
warrant.
show that it's a lot of support.
I think it's just to bring recognition.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a citizen's petition for town meeting.
No.
But, well, if it is, we'll find out soon enough.
Greg, maybe I misheard, or did you say, like, for example, the one that I'm most focused on is control number 1.
Okay.
Relative to the budget and the shifting that would be going on.
Right.
Did you say that we'll have further discussion on this, or no?
You can.
Numbers can change, or will they not change?
No, the numbers, myself and Mike Guzzo, we won't be recommending any changed numbers, and nor will the school department, I
So
believe.
I would then just ask the board if everybody is comfortable that we understand what, for example, a $28,500 cut in general government means, and how that will impact, and is everybody comfortable with that? And basically, same thing for each item. The biggest one is education. I don't know what, and I'm sure the schools had some input into that.
Completely from them.
So, and that they're comfortable with it, or can work with it and everything else. And just so that when we approve this to go forward, that we've had that discussion and that we're comfortable that everything is fine.
Right, so I guess to David's point, there's, we have them in front of us, and then we have a week to approve them.
I can explain, from the town side, with the exception of the fire department, these have been the same budget recommendation adjustments that we've had for a number of selectmen or budget subcommittee meetings. And we also presented to Finance Committee last night. Largely, they match FY19 actuals for the town side department. So that's the functions of general government, public safety, public works, and employee benefits.
So in effect, a level fund from last year.
Precisely. Now, and as I wrote in the sponsor comments, the risk is that we have unknown operational increases that often occur over time. Now, you can try to offset those increases with spending freezes or other sort of. You just try to stay within the budget. Now, the one exception to that is the police department. The police department's reductions were actually in our first revision of the FY20 budget that were then restored when our health insurance costs came in much less than we thought. So we had a health insurance savings, we restored those cuts, but now I'm recommending that we take those cuts again. Now, we just asked the school department, in working with the school committee, to provide their recommended adjustments. They provided that. They could speak to that now if you would like. The superintendent is here, but their comments are from them.
Okay. Okay.
I just want to say that I'm really I'm grateful that that we were able to. I know it was not easy on either administrator to find these cuts, and we operate on a very tight budget to begin with. So I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that went into making this happen. I mean, we really didn't have a choice, but you know, this is a lot of money to have to find now. So I really appreciate the work that went into this.
Okay. Yes, sir.
You want to include the stock article for acceptance of reports?
I'd like to think about that, because
Okay.
we're not accepting an official report.
No,
We're accepting an interim. Can I just think about it and I think you and I can talk about it a little more. But this is only the draft controls.
We
So
have.
we'll have the final.
Are there any reports to accept?
That's what he was getting at.
Master plan is how they want to do it.
If they do the
That's just an interim
This is-
report, so
This
it's
is
not a...
This is a, yeah.
So one, I'd have to draft the language just to make sure that it looked correct. But secondly, I'm not sure, so it's not the town report, and it's not a official report, it's just the interim. So I don't know if we need to go as official and formal as accepting it at town meeting.
Precedent says that there's typically an article even for interim.
Okay. Well, then we can do that.
Whether that's required or not, I don't know, but precedent is that way.
So because the board sets the warrant articles, that's probably why you're bringing it up now, Dick. So even if they don't, we could, if you would allow it, they could have it as part of, you could maybe take either at the beginning, at the end, or maybe or some sort of break in between your.
If we look back, I know, but Bill, you've done a couple of interim reports for the bylaw committee, haven't you? No?
Charter, and then also when we're doing a school building project.
And there was definitely one for the fire station, I mean, for the high school that was done at one point. And there might have been one, there was one for the fire station the last time we did that, the fire station group. So perhaps if we look back on town reports and look to see what the...
Was there a vote?
I don't believe that we had an article for it.
And are there any reports? And then somebody says yes, and so they give the report, and then in an interim report, and does the town accept the report?
Yeah.
We take a vote.
Okay, all right. So I'd have to draft the language, Mr. Chairman, and then we'll have it ready for you by the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, so next meeting, we're going to
That's when you'll approve the warrant.
approve the warrant.
Because we have to get it to the printers the next day.
So does anybody have any questions about the other items? So, you know, just again, just so we all, the five of us, understand it, Armin certainly isn't here, but we're just accepting these. We are not approving these. We are not offering our approval or endorsement.
So, as was brought up last year, I take the acceptance of these draft controls as endorsement. It is your warrant as the board. You're the executive body for the town. If you didn't wish to, besides citizens petitions, if you didn't want to have any of these articles on, or some of them, or change them, it's your warrant article. You're the executive body asking it to be voted upon by town meeting.
Asking it to be voted on, it doesn't mean that we agree or disagree. Is that what you're saying?
So that's been the discussion, is
Yeah.
whether or not by approving the article for the warrant, we are thereby endorsing. So somebody sitting in the audience can they, and this is a question.
Sure.
Can they make an assumption that because I may have voted to approve a particular warrant article to be put onto the warrant, that
Right.
therefore I am, by doing so, saying that I endorse that article?
You're in favor of it passing?
So I think it's a perception thing. So if the general public may assume, and I don't know, but they may assume that you are endorsing it, maybe not as a quorum. I mean, not unanimous, excuse me, but as a quorum, you have voted to approve this and accept this as an article.
I always look at it differently. I always look at it as like, all we're doing is voting to bring it in front of the town to take a
That's,
vote.
yeah,
Just
and that's the discussion.
Just like when you
This
sign
is
candidate
this
papers.
is a charter, and basically you're just accepting it as part of the warrant. You're not endorsing it as part of that vote.
Yes, that's been the discussion as to whether.
I always
so-
see it like when you sign candidate papers for someone, you're not saying you're gonna vote for
Correct.
them in an election, you're just saying like, you have a right to
Yeah.
be on this ballot. Right.
Right, you can vote however you like come
And-
time
and-
before.
Right.
And we have no right, we must accept citizens petitions.
Correct.
So therefore, the fact, and that's why I've always argued that if we must accept it, we're not endorsing it, we're just accepting it.
But that's not true for the non-citizens
I
petitions.
get that.
Oh, okay.
But to Bill's point, per charter, it says that the Board of Selectmen is only accepting, even the articles that you present, and, certain articles. But I still think that we should have an understanding of what they're all about. I further think that we should probably take a vote to endorse or not endorse each, at least the ones that are applicable to us. There are some that are applicable to the planning board that maybe we don't need to take a vote relative to whether or not we endorse it. But that's sort of a philosophical question, I think.
There's 3 bylaw articles that we, whether or not we endorse them.
Yeah, whether or not we endorse the bylaw article. That's the same thing as, planning board articles.
All right.
It's,
Okay. Yes, sir.
As moderator and you as policymakers for the town, I would give you the right to say anything you want to say about any article that was brought, whether you endorse or not endorse, as long as it was an official position. If there was no official position, I would have to ask you
to step down.
to talk as individuals.
Yeah, and then we'd have to
Right.
step off the
Right.
stage to do so.
Right.
Which I think is kind of why
Taking
we,
an official position on any individual article, then you could make an official recommendation at town meeting.
Yeah.
right, okay. All right, any other questions about these 5 motions?
So one last comment, to the moderator's point, that if there is a citizen's petition that comes up, and this is just general for future and for just general understanding, this Board of Selectmen should never speak from the dais. The Board of Selectmen members should always speak from the floor, because we've never taken an official position on that particular warrant article.
Well, unless we have taken
If
a
you
position.
haven't taken an
If we-
official position, I would ask you to.
Yeah, okay.
go to
But
the
if the
floor.
board votes on a citizen's petition, and as a team, we vote and the majority says, then we're okay to speak from the dais.
Right, because as a moderator, I don't know what the
I
individual
understand.
thoughts are. And
Yeah.
to have one person speak, and maybe 4 people that have a different view, but they don't feel like speaking, wouldn't be fair to the
Right.
the audience. And so
Right.
that's-
Okay.
Okay. All right. First, we'll just go through them 1 through 5. The first one is the approval of draft control 1, the town general fund. All those in favor? Second was the town bylaw, section 3.1.2. All those in favor? Bancroft School was the third. All those in favor? Minimum property standards was the 4th. All those in favor? And finally was the municipal charges lien. All those in favor? You get them all, Becky?
Got 'em. Thank you.
Did we get them? Yeah, we got them all. Okay. All right. All right. Home rule petition. Motion to approve the revised language for the home rule petition, now known as H3870 as presented.
Second.
Thank you.
Greg, I'm wondering if you could explain what happened and why this has to be rewritten.
Can I bounce pass it to Assistant Town Administrator Megan Zamuto?
Huh?
Yes.
Yes. Can I defer to?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Sure. So at the 2019 annual town meeting, Article 35, which was the home rule petition for special legislation concerning a liquor license, was accepted by an open majority vote. Town meeting language was approved at that time, and it was submitted to Representative Hogan's office. And when we sent it to Representative Hogan's office, they coordinated with the Consumer Protection Committee, and the Consumer Protection Committee suggested revised language that was a little bit more specific. And so they sent that back to us and asked that the Board of Selectmen would approve this version of the language. It's my understanding that this happens from time to time with home rule petitions. There's different committees that are working on it. We did have the language vetted by council prior to town meeting, but there were some changes suggested, and so that's why I was asking the board to consider this language. And if the board does approve this language today, then at the next meeting, I'll ask the chairman to sign a letter to acknowledge that this change has been approved.
So it does not require us to go back to town meeting to
Correct.
get...
No.
It's just legalese. When we did it in the Westford, we had to do this like 5 times. It's frustrating.
Well, because I thought that originally, I remember, I have absolutely no problem with the language. I just want to make sure that everything's obviously on the up and up, because I know that when we talked about it before we went to town meeting, it was said, that, they had put it forward, but that wasn't necessarily going to go to them. So I just wanted to make sure that it was okay that.
That's true.
So
Why does the language include
Yeah.
the specific?
It does.
Yeah.
It says Russell's?
Yeah.
Okay, well then maybe I should have read that closer, but I'll have to think about that, because that was not the intention of the town meeting. It was just to increase the license number, not
Right.
to assign it to a specific, because they still have to apply to the board.
Right.
Yes.
Then we can vote where it goes. Someone else can
Yeah,
vote
we
apply
need
too.
to, we need to look at that. We'll look at that, Mr. Chairman.
So should we kick this to next meeting, since we can't vote on this?
Yeah, I would
specific
recommend
language?
not approving this time. I apologize for the confusion.
That was a good catch.
All right, so withdraw the motion and request that we move this to the 17th agenda.
Second.
You don't have to second it.
Okay, fine. I do want to make it clear, I'm 100% in support of them. I just want to make sure that intent, that we don't mishandle it somehow. So I just,
I don't think we can approve it though, because it was really clear
Oh,
at town meeting. It was
you're
just
absolutely
to-
correct.
yeah.
That first paragraph in there with section 1 identifies them, and this was not supposed to be in
Right.
any way directly associated with them.
Right, they haven't even applied.
I thought
so
it was
wouldn't
like-
be
yeah.
out
Thank you
of
for,
order
thank you for
anyway.
pointing that out.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, good catch.
No. All right, so we'll get to that at the next opportunity.
We can talk about that, Megan.
All right, we're on to the review process for draft application process for Maynard marijuana establishments. So the document that we got in the executive minutes for that is just, executive content is just the outline of what we believe the process should look like based on, what we've gone through with our discussions and how we've handled liquor licenses. And it flows right along the same way, more or less. So, with the exception of some of the few things that are Cannabis Control Commission specific. So, we're not voting on it, so does anybody have any questions about the document
No.
titled Application Process for Marijuana Establishments in the Town of Maynard?
It seems logical and consistent with what we've done, and just makes the most sense.
I had a question that I had asked Megan to reach out to Kate, and I don't know if it's for this or for the HCA, about whether or not there's a way we can legally have some kind of a limit for how long it takes for someone, once we've signed a host community agreement, how long they have that license before inaction gets, almost revokes it, but I don't know.
Like a pocket, like a pocket veto.
So you're saying once we sign an HCA, how long does someone have to?
To actually move it forward and come back with, or whatever, to make progress. I mean, that's the thing, so.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes.
I did pass that on to Kate. I haven't heard back yet,
Okay.
but it is my understanding that after the board signs a host community agreement with an applicant, they get in the queue for the Cannabis Control Commission, and I believe that they can have lengthy waits. So we'll definitely get that answer from Kate, but I think, I'm not sure kind of what their timeline is, so we wouldn't want to too tightly restrict something that was in process at the state level.
Absolutely, no, and I completely understand that. It's more that I don't want someone to have it and kind of languish for whatever reason. I mean, I do absolutely understand the CCC is overwhelmed and they have a lot of applications. It's just more of, if you don't see anything else happening with the property, or if you don't see that there's any other steps moving forward,
Or maybe we could ask Kate if we could put language into our future HDAs that, like, if the applicant doesn't make, affirmative steps towards the state cannabis application process, that this HDA becomes null and void after X period of time of inaction. Something along those lines.
How will they be impacted? And this is sort of off topic, but how will they be impacted by the proposed bylaw change for businesses that are not operational, that have a storefront that's not being used, and they're waiting on is that an unintended consequence of the proposed bylaw?
So I think for the proposed bylaw, it's mostly focusing on the minimum maintenance piece. The vacancy one that was proposed at the spring was not considered for this fall town meeting. So they would, just like any property, any business.
Just be expected to keep it up.
Keep it up at the minimum level if that were to go through, yes.
Yeah.
But I feel like you bring up a really good point. Several of the board members were talking about a potential date certain, and I don't want to go too off topic, but the next item on the agenda is to ask the board to reapprove the license application, because the most recent document that was approved at a previous meeting was the incorrect version. It wasn't the most up-to-date. But now that we're talking about this, I'm wondering if maybe the license would be the most appropriate place to put some type of opening date certain in the Board of Selectmen license instead of the host community agreement. So I don't have the answer to that, but I'm just thinking that that might be an option.
After attending the training last Wednesday with Ralph Sacramone in Waltham, that question was brought up on a liquor license, because a lot of communities now have, for instance, our example would be the 110 Grill that is out at 129 Parker Street. Ralph Sacramone said that is not really considered a pocket license. It's a license that is in economic development, and once it comes to fruition, that restaurant will open. So that license would not be considered a pocket. So that same theory may roll over in the marijuana, just giving you an example from the alcohol.
So I think it would have to go in an HCA then. And my only thought with that, to Justine's point, is that we know this is a long process, but I think it's just saying if there's inaction for, let's say, like a year or 18 months where that person's not moving forward, like our HCA just shouldn't hang out in space forever, especially when we have other retailers looking to come to town.
What's the risk, though?
I think the risk is that
It's
we
that
would hold
vacancy.
off on other people coming to town that we could be actually profiting from, because they're moving forward in the process and opening a retail establishment. And marijuana, so we're missing out on profits because they're just sitting on an HCA and not moving forward.
We
with
don't
the
have a
state.
limit there's no policy limiting how many HCAs we could have.
We don't, but I do think there is a limit, abstractly. Like,
Okay.
we're a tiny town. So I'm just saying, if we want to be in these HCA, if we're entering into an HCA, then we want that business. But if they're not even affirmatively applying at the state level, I don't know why they wouldn't be. At some point, should the HCA kind of become null and void and be subject to renegotiation?
Okay.
That's all I'm saying, because it could prevent other establishments from coming into town. They could be taking up retail space.
Fair point. If anything, it inspires a partnership or cooperation between that business and
Right.
us. I mean, they need to keep us informed about what they're doing on their end of the deal.
And it's a huge revenue drive for us. So to have somebody taking up an HCA, a retail spot in town, and then not acting upon it is detrimental.
Now there's the rub. Right, that's the point. I think I wasn't kidding.
Yeah.
If they are occupying and leasing a space,
Which we assume they would be, because
Yes,
that seems to be the
because most of
consensus
them
of the
have,
board. Like,
yeah.
we don't want to sign an HCA until
Very
they're
good
leasing a
point.
space. So then they're not taking affirmative actions to get the state. And I don't think anyone would. I think, there is a risk to this, and they're all going to be have some financial skin in the game. So I would think anyone who has an HCA is going to be running to the state to get in that queue because it's such a long process.
But we don't want agreements to allow people to just have vacant buildings.
Right, or say I have this HCA, I'm going to prevent another business from coming into this town, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And take market share.
Okay. All right, so now the license. Is the license in front of us, Megan, the most recent one?
Yes.
Do you know what's different about this one than the one we approved?
Yeah, and my apologies
It
for
just
that.
looks the same.
There are a few versions floating around, and I pulled the wrong one. This one just had more required forms to be submitted with the application, including like the Corey authorization form, a more detailed floor plan, and just all the suggestions from town council. So I think I pulled one that just had a few less.
Okay.
This gives the town the most protection, and it's been approved by council.
Which is what we like.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve the revised cannabis control license application. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any conversation about this? This is the latest and greatest version from Megan and Kate. No? All those in favor? All right, so now we have an application,
Only a year in the making.
at least. All right, there's a document there, see, retail cannabis in Maynard and guidance provided by town council. Did you want to just explain that one, Greg, or do you just let it stand on its own merit? It's fine by me.
I can explain. So just in reflection of the past conversations that the board has had, and particularly with prospective recreational marijuana businesses in town, we were curious, in addition to the town meeting article that failed, which limit or put a cap on how many licenses we had in town, what the board had at its disposal as far as policy options or otherwise to limit how many host community agreements the board or ultimately licenses they could move into. So town council provided some direction, and ultimately their guidance was you should be subjective. So I'll quote word for word from town council Kay Federoff. I would suggest that they take each proposal on an individual basis so that they can discuss the saturation of downtown, etc. But take every proposal up and then decline to contract on that basis, which is fair. I mean, each business we do consider its own entity and where they want to go and what their business they want to provide and their presentation materials and whatnot. We look at each one individually. Right now, it's not so demanding. Yes, we have a number that we already have host community agreements with, and then a few that are vying for it. But right now, it is not the most time-consuming to individually look. So I don't necessarily recommend a policy at this time. It just isn't, maybe not a direction we have to.
Can we comment on this while we're on it? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Is that the agenda?
Yeah.
So,
it's a
I mean, I feel
discussion.
very strongly that we should not cap it given the vote at town meeting. However, I don't think this board should hesitate to say no to someone that we think is a poor fit for the town of Maynard. I think we have an obligation to the town to have business owners in this field who have experience, who have connections in the industry, who we feel are going to be responsible and good community partners. So my thought is that we should really scrutinize all applicants going forward and not hesitant to say no. And that doesn't mean we wouldn't entertain future people. But that's just my thought.
Okay. I think most of us share the
While
same
we're on the
opinion.
topic of HCA's, and I don't know if it's out of order, I'll take it out of order, or I'll comment on it somewhere else. And I'll submit, there was an article that appeared yesterday's Boston Herald relative to HCA's, and as you probably know in the news, there's a big issue down in Fall River as a result of of some issues relative to the mayor's involvement and whatever. So that's generated a lot of discussion at this point at the state level relative to, what's going on with these HCA's and agreements being made behind the scenes or whatever. In yesterday's article that included aspects of that part, there was an interesting paragraph, and I think it's important for us as a community and us as a board to look at the paragraph and say, what's going on? And I'll read the paragraph. Cannabis Control Commission Chairman Stephen Hoffman said his board has publicly said during several meetings that there are gaps in state law that prevent the agency from enforcing host community agreements which establish conditions for the cannabis company to operate within the community. Therefore, when we are talking about host community agreements, we better stay with whatever the program is and not divert, because they're telling us flat out, Steve Hoffman has told us flat out in this quote, that there are gaps in the state law, and that could prevent the agency that we're relying upon. Oh, the CCC won't allow that, the CCC has to approve, and some business could say, oh, but we won't do that, we won't appeal. Well, guess what? We've been told by this quote that there are gaps in the state law that prevent the agency from enforcing host community agreements which establish conditions for the cannabis community. Something to think about, folks. when
Sure.
Talking
I think it just
about
depends on what the
diverting
gaps
from HCA guidelines.
Well, I think that I'm actually very grateful to our town council, because I think I feel like they've been on the forefront of this for this year. They have really tried to guide us in the most conservative way and the most protective way. We are very careful with our HCA's as to what we ask for. We don't, there are towns asking for much more than what we do, but we do what we ask what we do, because that is what we can. We're not trying to get anything else, and I really give legal a lot of credit there.
I would agree. I think they're doing a great job at helping us to work through the issues.
No, and it's good, and there will be a significant amount of scrutiny on each business, absolutely.
Okay.
Excellent.
That it for marijuana?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Right, Megan? Yep.
All right, so now we're on to the always stunning town administrator's report.
It was a little short this week.
A little short, I was kind of disappointed,
I like the
rehashing.
Why is there always a little immature chuckle on my part when Chris says something like, is that it for the marijuana discussion? Is that it for the marijuana? Is that it for the
It's
pot?"
never ending. So anyways, before we get to report, the two items underneath were Justin DeMarco and James Mullen, and I just want to, thank you guys, you and the town hall staff and everyone involved in getting both of those guys on board. I know it's a difficult process and it takes a while, so I think the five of us appreciate you guys getting that done in a timely manner and to the town's benefit in most cases as well, so thanks for that, and we look forward to Justin and Mr. Mullen and the contributions they'll make going forward, so thanks.
Very much.
And
So, Mr.
anything
Chairman,
else outside of what the written report?
one thing outside of the written report, can I mention one thing within the written report as well?
Yes, the floor is yours, sir.
So I know that the board has done, already provided compliments and commendatory remarks, but I'd like to do the same to the police department for all their hard work in apprehending the suspect of the larceny. Vandalism, thank you.
A little bit everything
Downtown.
thrown in that little day.
Yep.
Go figure, a guy from Acton, Robin Maynard.
Hey. So, also I want to point out that DPW did find a sidewalk that went along Great Road to Erickson's Ice Cream.
Yes.
As it turns out, there was already one there. So,
They're doing a really good job too.
who's doing a good job?
In the repaving of that
Oh,
sidewalk.
detour, yeah.
That particular one right
Yeah,
there?
it
Or
looks really-
detail? Okay, so our DPW guys did the little one next to
Oh,
Erickson's.
the hot tub. Oh, okay.
And then Detour is doing the sidewalks and repaving.
Down Great Road, okay.
Right.
I will say,
Coming
when we're
along.
talking about the sidewalk near Erickson's and whatnot, that I have heard through several different people that have had, dealings with and been involved in different things DPW related over the past several months, that that group is doing a great job.
Absolutely.
In absence of a true leader. So, kudos to whoever is doing whatever leadership is being provided by whomever.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Kudos to that group, because the things that they've been doing are in line with what's been going on, and nothing's changing. It's just
They're hard
been
workers.
a good situation for the town.
Yeah.
That could certainly have been a bad situation for the town.
So one other non-written, Mr. Chairman. So I want to commend publicly Megan Zamuda for all her hard work she's been doing in response to the recent mosquito mosquito-borne illness. She became a mosquito-borne illness expert in the last
overnight
48 hours.
So should we like not go outside after 10 o'clock tonight, because they'll be spraying?
Megan, should we go outside after 10
Have you
o'clock
dug a
tonight?
tunnel for us to leave?
Yeah.
There's so much to say on this topic. I do feel like I've learned so much. But no, I think, thank you. We are going to be having some spraying done by the state. They're going to spray the entire community of Maynard. That spray is starting tonight. Not necessarily in Maynard. There's a map that I sent out, I think, through a reverse 911, so everyone can kind of take a look at that. But we're also contracting with East Middlesex Mosquito Control. We contract with them annually to do several different treatments for mosquito control. And we're trying to get on their schedule. Believe it or not, they're very busy right now, so that they can. I've been calling them constantly to make sure they can come out and spray the perimeter of our athletic field. So, we've been trying to share all the information with the community and the school department, and we're hopeful we'll share more as soon as we get the details of when that spraying will be done.
Where does the funding for that spray come from?
Sure. So the contract that we have with East Middlesex Mosquito, that comes from the Office of Municipal Services, from our public health budget. The additional spraying that we're going to hopefully do around the perimeter of the fields within the next week or so, that will also come from that budget. The past couple years, we've had we haven't exactly spent the full amount of the public health budget. This year, with some of the tick illnesses and this mosquito crisis, we're dipping into paying a little bit more, but we do feel we'll be able to manage those costs within the OMS budget.
And then, excuse me, but have you had conversation at all with the schools? Because I did hear through the grapevine, and I haven't seen anything official, because I guess I don't have an athlete in my family, what they're doing, for example, with the football game on Friday night. I had heard through the grapevine that it was moved to Saturday, although I do not know when on Saturday. And
I don't have information about that. I did provide the school and Mary Jane the information about guidelines for hosting activities outdoors and what time dusk is, and kind of what the guidelines are from the state, but I don't know what policy decisions they made regarding
okay, so that would be that was not coordinated with you guys relative
the
to
determination of athletic events was not through our office now.
We're keeping them informed with the treatments.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the teams have been practicing inside at night.
And they had a football game Friday night over at the field, and I had heard, and I don't know if it's true, that it's moved to Saturday. So I said, well, when? And I can't get an answer.
We can look into it.
Emily's nodding her head.
Yeah.
3?
It's at 3.
Okay.
Thank you, Emily.
That's why we have a high school student here.
I've got a high school student, but I don't. The band will not be there. I heard that too.
I really appreciate your work too, Megan, because I know this is not easy, and I think that we also should recognize, or I would like to recognize the fact that this doesn't, as much as everybody would like to instantly spray everywhere all at once, it doesn't unfortunately work that way. So all these other towns are feeling as critical or more critical than we are, and if they're deemed more critical, I don't know if that goes on a priority list or not. I'm speaking out of turn. I don't know. But I'm just saying that there probably are not a whole lot of people who spray, those types of contractors that can spray. So the fact that that we are getting it taken care of as fast as we can is good.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. No. Okay, that's okay. No, I don't have anything specific. So we'll move on to the board member reports. We'll start with Melissa.
I don't have anything tonight.
Thank you. David?
I'm good.
Justine?
I don't have anything tonight.
Come on!
I got another meeting next week.
So we do, our next meeting is next week, so we have 2 meetings back to back. So that'll be nice. We'll have the rest of the month off. So a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Those in favor? See you in a week. Thank you very much. Thank you, Emily. for your contribution.
She just gave you a thumbs up.
So David, I have a question, so.
3 hours quicker than last week, by the
On
way.
that appointment-
Funny way of keeping time.
I know, I made it have to come back.
On Monday, would you have preferred to see
That's the
that
goal.
in as a regular agenda item?
Oh, my God.
And even if she didn't show up?
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Everyone?
How are things?
Great time tonight.